just a little bit more. Always use the Phillips side to snug it. Don't use the wrench because it's too easy to get too much torque. Hey everyone, Zach here with GP Cycle Works, and this video is going to be an unboxing video and also show you how to install our Honda Rebel 1100T, the bagger model windshields. So we're going to do a quick overview of the tools needed and the few simple steps that's needed just to swap out your original one to really get some real wind protection on your bike. All right, so let's get started. All right, so the first step in putting on the windshield is actually taking it out of the box, which is always a pretty exciting thing. The first thing that's going to be on top is some stickers and a marketing campaign that we normally got something special going on, so be sure to pay attention to this. Your receipt will also be in here. And the other critical component is going to be the metal hardware for this bagger model that we're going to swap out with the stock hardware. So be sure to put your sticker on a toolbox or a fridge in the garage. We'll go ahead and set this stuff aside for now and then get to the good part that everyone wants to see. So we wrap these windshields in paper, and then we also wrap them in foam to really prevent anything from happening during the shipment process. And then the last step is a nice plastic later on here. So we'll go ahead and keep the windshield in the bag until you're actually getting ready to put it on, but people like to go ahead and check it out. This one is the 12.5-inch light smoke gray non-vented model. We pre-install the rubber grommets and metal spacers so that all you're doing is putting in the new nuts and bolts after you take off the original one. So we can go ahead and just keep this in the box and set it aside for once we have the fairing taken off. All right, so now we got the bike here. We're gonna do the actual install of the windshield. It's a pretty quick 4-step process. You remove the fairing, take off the original windshield, put on the new windshield, and then put the fairing back on, clean it up a little bit, and then you're good to go. So we'll get started on it. The first thing you're gonna need is a 5mm Allen key. Most of the bolts are easy to reach, but there's one kind of tricky one. You can also use a T30 in a pinch if you don't have a 5mm laying around. We've got a few different tools, and there's going to be 3 bolts on each side to remove the cowling, and then there's going to be 4 5mm bolts to actually remove the windshield. So there's these 2 lower ones, and then in between the windshield mounts there's going to be a 3rd one on each side. So we'll go ahead and start removing this, and then we'll leave the middle one as the last one because that one's nice and easy to reach. From here we can do it by hand. Then we'll go to the other side, and you can always tilt the handlebars if you need a little more clearance from the gas tank. They're not very tight coming from the factory. We haven't loosened these at all. So when you put it back together, you also don't need to over tighten it. The last one on this side, we'll keep that loose and we'll come back and finish that one off while we get the other one. All right, so those are the 6 bolts to get the front cowling off, and then go ahead and take off the windshield with the same tools we had before. All right, so this is going to be the stock setup. It's got metal screws into rubber well nuts, which we've talked about in quite a few different videos, that this works pretty well for smaller windshields, but when you really need some wind protection and you've got our taller windshields, we include metal hardware to swap out both the bolts and the rubber grommets that are holding the windshield. All right, so we got the original windshield off, and we're gonna go ahead and remove these rubber grommets and set them aside. You can kind of keep these with your stock windshield if you ever want to go back to this setup. All right, so now everything is taken off and we're pretty much ready to put on the new windshield. All right, so feel free to use the ground because, you know, nothing's ever going to fall away from it. So we got a little towel here and we'll put the fairing just to keep that nice while we work on our windshield. Like I said, the grommets and spacers are already going to be installed. So we've got our nuts and bolts and washers. We'll show you the order that it goes on. We tried to make it a little simpler with a Phillips head bolt, and then the nut is you're going to need either a 9mm wrench or an 11/32 wrench. So really you can use either one. So those are the two options that. All right, so take our windshield out. It's way easier with an extra set of hands. So if you've got someone you want to bribe with a 6-pack or a soda or something, please do, because that just makes the whole process a little bit easier. So we got a bolt and a washer on the outside, and then a washer and a nut on the inside. We've got oversized washers to help hold the windshield on there because you've got these giant holes in the brackets. All right, so we pretty much got everything finger tight just to stop the windshield from moving so we can put the other ones on. A lot of people ask us why we have those metal spacers in there, and the one problem with metal hardware is that you can over tighten the bolts. You know, a lot of people, when you have metal, you use a wrench, and it is very easy to over tighten it and compress the acrylic too much. So that's one reason why over the decades we've used nylon hardware. But for this application, it needed metal to really add some strength. So then we had to add metal spacers so that you cannot over compress the acrylic windshield. All right, so we've got everything finger tight on there, and now we'll come back with the tools. Like I said, we do not need to over tighten, so we're really just going to snug it up. And we'll alternate. We'll kind of get it pretty tight, and then we'll come back and do another round of tightening. All right, so we're already pretty tight, so we'll just snug them up just a little bit more. Always use the Phillips side to snug it. Don't use the wrench because it's too easy to get too much torque on the wrench. Oh, our bag wants to take a ride also here. And that is pretty much it for the windshield installation. All right, so now our windshield's on there. It is sturdy, it's not going anywhere. You know, you're shaking the bike when you're shaking the windshield. Time to put back the fairing. Get this one as well. All right, so that's how you remove the stock windshield and put on your new windshield for some real wind protection. You know, we pretty much went from that small 3.5-inch windshield up to a 12.5, so this is really going to give that added protection. Our windshields do slant up a little bit. We hope that helps explain the process for you. You know, it's not too complicated. It's a little hard reaching a few of them, and the tools we used were a 5mm Allen key for all of the stock hardware for taking off the fairing and taking off the original windshield, and then for our new hardware, we had a Phillips head screwdriver and then either a 9mm or 11/32 wrench for the nylock nuts that are on the backside. We hope that answered all the questions. If there are any other questions that you have, or you just need some more information, either comment below or shoot us an email. If you give us a call or email us, you'll reach me, Zach, and I'll be able to help you out, and we'll get you squared away. You can order these online directly if you have any questions, or like I said, give us a call. All right, thanks, and safe riding.